Okay. Hello, guys. It's John at Bill and Paul's Courthouse. It is Tuesday, February 21st, and I am so excited to be introducing somebody who was not on my radar until a few months ago. Has done some incredible things in the outdoors all around the country, especially in that realm of distance and speed hiking. On my left is Jeff Garmier.
Thank you. Yeah,
welcome.
No, excited to make it out to Grand Rapids and, maybe share some stories of success, failures, everything in between, and of course show a movie about setting a record on the trail.
Yeah, that's your point of your visit is Thursday night, this upcoming Thursday at Aquinas College. Jeff's got a sweet film about adventure, and we'll let him tell you more about it, but it'll be showing. We're sponsoring it. Come on over. Their tickets are available online. We'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Your first visit to Grand Rapids?
I visited for a work trip when I was working in finance to do an audit in 2015. So this is a very, very much a better reason to visit than to count inventory. So that's a career I left behind to chasing my passion.
And you've done that with a lot of success.
Yeah, less financial success, but a lot of rewarding intrinsic success.
Well, for those of us that live in this industry, that's really what it's about.
Oh yeah,
I've got a garage full of great gear. I don't have a bank account very full, but it's it's more about the people, the lifestyle, the personal accomplishment.
Yeah,
a lot of it. So how did you end up picking Grand Rapids to come and show your movie? I think that's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, Rob actually, my friend Rob, who's a loyal customer and grew up around here, he really pushed the idea of bringing it out here, and I kind of like the idea of trying to bring it to a college and do this whole different thing rather than I've rented some big theaters to show it. I thought this would be a really cool way to, and already today had lunch with some freshmen in college, and they're like kind of excited and looking at backpacking the Grand Canyon or through hiking things. So it was kind of a little bit of a shift in the style, and then but really just wanted to bring it to a new audience somewhere else, and also just see a new community as well, because in this phase between finishing the movie and then it ending up on a streaming service, it's like this one period where you can do anything you want with it. And I think a cool thing to do with it is use it as a reason to go meet new people, see new places, interact with people, and have this really cool common thing to share. And there's nothing more fulfilling than having a passion and get to show people you're passionate about it too, and having a featured length film showing something you're passionate about with the highs, the lows, the blister popping, the throwing up, the really struggling is like, I kept going because I love doing this, and it's not easy the whole time. So I think getting to show it to as many people as possible is really the kind of reward of putting all the hard work in for 2 years to make a film.
So we are live. If you're catching this, please feel free to chime in with questions or comments, or let us know if you've seen Jeff before. If you haven't, you'd probably be able to meet him at Aquinas. I think that's going to be a very intimate setting over there.
Yeah, I think so.
So you'll be able to do this again. If you're one of those college students he's talking about, spread the word. I know the Calvin Outdoor Adventure, the Grand Valley Adventure Clubs, you climbers from Terra Firma. Our community of outdoor lovers is strong here in West Michigan, and you guys love to come and support these types of things. So we hope you can come out and show this guy that passion that we have. I know we don't have epic mountains, but we have a long distance trail that is unique in the country, and that's a North Country Trail. I had asked you earlier, have you done that? Is it on your radar?
It's definitely on my radar. I'd like to, in my lifetime, do all the national scenic trails, and so that's certainly one of them, and it's the longest one I have left. I think it is the longest of the national scenic trails, but it is hard to find the time to do 4,500 miles worth of backpacking, but that is also what makes these adventures special, is you have to move aside all the other things in life, and that's got to be the priority. And so I think that's the really cool thing about backpacking too, is it just strips away all the things, because you can't really be out there answering emails or doing work when you're out there. So it's really a choice, and you got to choose to be present. And that's kind of what goes along with like the movies about the Colorado Trail record. It was very much for 9 days I'm going to be pushing towards this one goal. I can't really have any other goals because it's 55 miles a day every day for 9 days to get this thing done. So I think that's a really cool thing that I've learned through this. It's now been 12 years of long distance backpacking and working it into life. Is a few times I've quit records, and it's because I'm just not fully into it. And if you're not fully committed, it's not going to turn out well, like a lot of things.
So I was looking at some of your accomplishments in history, and it looks like your first, and I learned a new term too, fastest known time, right? FKTs?
Yeah, FKT.
So you hit one of those back in 2014. How old were you?
I was 24 back then.
Okay.
Actually, I was 23, not even 24. And so a fastest known time is a record. So that was on the Pacific Northwest Trail, and so I did it the fastest that anyone has reportedly done it. And so someone may have done it before the time the cell phones are tracking, so it's more an ode to there may have been someone else, we don't quite know, and it's just a specific term for the outdoors. Like there's a website, fastestknowntime.com, where there's FKTs, as they're called, around here that you can go after, and some are multi-day, a couple 100 miles, and some are 20 miles, more of a running thing. And it's just a cool, there's no cash money or any prize, but it's this cool goal. It's almost like a Strava segment or something. You get this
trophies.
Yeah, you get this chance to just test yourself. Like, maybe I can do that. This becomes my goal. I'm going to go chase it and run after it. And I think it's pretty cool.
So that 2014 event, was that your goal, or did you just happen to have that happen and go, wow, look what I can do?
Exactly. I kind of stumbled upon fastest known times through that experience, and then went on to, I think, set 19 or 20 more well-known ones. But that one was really where I first learned these whole record thing, this tiny little niche, and I found that I really loved this niche. So I went on and kept chasing FKTs ranging from the Arizona Trail to the Colorado Trail to I just did the Garmier Trail, back in the record on that in last August. So it's been really fun to work my way up too. So the term originated on the Garmier Trail, so it was really cool to get the record on the trail where the term originated, as I have leveled up.
I've got some questions on how to accomplish that, or how you accomplish that. But before that, like, did you grow up in a backpacking or hiking or outdoor family, or did you just wake up one morning angry and decide I'm going to run to the woods, or like what made you want to go and hit the trail like that?
I grew up in the very traditional backpacking of the 90s, where you had 70-pound packs and you went 3 miles to a lake carrying a rubber raft, a change of shoes, and 2 pairs of jeans. And then when I was 16, I met some Pacific Crest Trail through hikers, and it just stuck in the back of my mind. And then I went on to college, and after about 1.5 years of college, I kind of thought, I don't like the major I'm in, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm going to quit. So it's ironic I'm showing the film at a college, but I quit spring term college and went with a 1.5 week notice, flew to San Diego and hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. And it was a really good bridge moment from, growing up, figuring out how to be independent in college, into just, you're in the woods, you have whatever money you have to make it last as long as you can. My pack broke 650 miles in. I had a 55-pound external frame pack, and I had it loaded so heavy that the frame broke. And so I learned about carrying lighter gear, which is now very standard, but I had no exposure
fast and
to
light
that.
really wasn't a term back then, probably.
Yeah, it was in the smaller circles, but now it's a lot more mainstream. And so I learned that along the way. I learned how to fix gear. I learned that I didn't need a new pair of pants for every day out on the trail. So I got to mail home 10 pounds of clothing. So it was really just about this whole learning as you go, and also the slow and steady progress of becoming an expert or experienced at experienced at something. And so I finished the Pacific Crest Trail, stretched my money the whole way, went back to college and closed it out. I don't know if that was the best decision or not, but I got a degree, and then
Mom and Dad were probably happy.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Since then, I've just tried to like incorporate this new passion of through hiking and the outdoors into life, and it is had to work in corporate America for a little bit, and then found a way to make enough from the backpacking, outdoor riding realm and that kind of thing to incorporate it more and more. But it was this really good way to stumble upon a passion just on the PCT.
So referencing that, you are an author. You've got a book called Free Outside, which I'll let you talk about in a second. But Free Outside is also your website, freeoutside.com.
Yep.
It's the name of the movie that you guys will see on Thursday night.
That's vertical branding right there.
Whether that's intentional or not. Was there a reason Free Outside? Where did that term come from? When did it pop into your head? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it's a really good backstory. I saw it was available as a domain, and I bought it. And then I grew into it and came up with all these amazing reasons why I went Free Outside.
Okay.
Because it is a good term. It just was my favorite of the available domains to start.
So we had a little confusion in our store when we first started talking about this movie, because I introduced it to the staff as there's this Free Outside movie, and everybody thought they could go to an outside movie for free.
Oh,
So we have to be careful when we reference.
I've made this joke a lot too. I should have made it expensive outside, and I'd be a lot wealthier.
Yes, nothing's free about it. So, you at freeoutside.com, you've got some amazing information, tips, blog posts on exactly what you were talking about, what packs, how to use your pack. My favorite one is, I don't know how to train, I just know how.
It's like, I don't know how to train, but here's how I train.
But here's how I train, I thought that was phenomenal.
Do we have a question over here?
There is a question.
Yeah,
We do have a question. What is one piece of advice or some piece of advice you would give to a first-time backpacker?
If you've never backpacked before, I think start with backpacking. It sounds really dull and dumb, but it's like you don't know if you're even going to like backpacking until you get out there. I'm a big person who's like, get to yes or no as quickly as you can. Don't be like, I would love to do that. I mean, you might love to do it once you do it, but you don't really know what you like about it, what you don't. Maybe you like a 2-hour backpacking trip in and reading by a lake. Then you can plan those trips more in the future, but find the things about it that you love and make those the biggest part of your adventure rather than diving into a through hike, because I think time is too precious, especially outside of work, to force ourselves to do the things that we don't like. So it's just focus on those aspects, whether it's backpack in and go fishing, or backpack in and do tons of miles, or maybe it's just trail running because you love being on the trail. It's just like, start doing the activity and then just take mental notes of what parts of it you like and try to make those the highlight of your weekend or the highlight of the trip. And I think that's something that we gloss over too much. It's okay to quit. If you hate running, don't keep running. There's something else good that's similar to running that you're gonna like.
And hopefully, if whoever asked that question, if you got friends, try to go with some friends that might have some gear. I would say come to see us at Bill and Paul's and just come in and have a conversation. We're really about education as opposed to sales. We do rent packs, but you'll talk to people that also do backpacking and have used the equipment here, and we hire guys like Jeff to help you, and we have resources like that. And I would also say go check out freeoutside.com, because a lot of those blog posts are actually very interesting. So if you're into solo misery, then you could do what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
It's similar to the kayaking trip I was talking about, where you just go out and pound out miles and you're by yourself and you're kind of personally challenging yourself to see what your limits are. But that's not always fun.
I would say a big thing is the connection side. There's so much to be learned from other people's failures and successes, but growing with a group and just going, make it first-time backpacker into a second-time backpacker into just a beginner backpacker. So it's just whittling away, just start small. Go out and hike in a couple miles in the afternoon and camp, or set up your tent in your backyard, figure out how to pack your pack. All the little things that give you trepidations or anxiety, try to cross some of those off the list before you're out there with no cell service and feeling a little overwhelmed.
So I want to ask a couple of gear-specific questions.
Yeah.
So I would consider the most important piece of the kit good boots and socks, right? You got to have feet. So if your feet
Socks
aren't happy,
number one.
So socks are number one.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And then the footwear choice that you use, do you have a brand or a style of footwear or a category?
Usually trail shoes are the biggest ones. So boots are kind of, I think they're less popular. They're good for carrying more weight and going shorter and maybe something like that. But I like more trail running type shoes, so sneaker realm. And just because they're softer on the feet, they do wear out quicker, but they're also dry out quicker if they get wet. And so that's a huge thing, is you can change your shoes or change your socks, dry out your shoes a little bit, and you're good to go within an hour or something. Whereas boots, and especially in the snow, once they get wet, they usually stay wet for the trip. And so lately I've been using Topos. I set the record on the Garmier Trail in Solomon trail running shoes. I've used Hoka before. I think the biggest thing with footwear, I think good socks, number one. Can't dispute that. But for shoes, it's hard to recommend things because I think everyone's foot's so different. There's narrow, there's wide, and there's also different drops. So like Ultra has 0 drop, which is basically like the front of your foot to the back of the foot's nothing, and then other brands are 5 to 10 millimeter drop, which is just a 10 millimeter difference from the front to the back. And so I think these are things that you just learn over time, and I don't think that what I wear is going to fit or work for everyone else out there either. So I think you start with something, and if it's not working, you move to something else as far as the shoes.
And we usually see that progression where a new backpacker, we would probably put them in more of a boot style, and then as people gain more experience, you tend to see them go a little bit lower and lighter. And
yeah,
we're blessed in Michigan with a lot of sandy trails, so we don't have the need as much for hardcore protection with the stiff sole and the rest of that until you get up to some of the corners of the UP where we get kind of rocky. So it's a little different mindset. So you would love the North Country Trail, at least through Michigan. It's a little more, and we don't have big elevation. You're not doing these high altitude things. So
I'd also like to say that if you are a beginning backpacker, you want to get out there and do that, you can start with a lot of the gear you already have. If you have shoes that you run in, you can go backpacking in your running shoes because you're probably doing a shorter trip and you're just figuring out what works. I mean, I would get nice socks and something wicking, but you can eliminate a lot of those barriers to entry. Like, you do want a pack and a tent and a sleeping bag, but some of the fringe things you can kind of figure out with what you have, because like I said earlier, you want to know if you actually like it before dropping $1,000 on a kit. And so I would really say figure out what you actually need to get out there and do it, and then go out there and do it with some of the stuff you already have, and then you'll know what worked and what didn't work, and you can go from there. People will run for 20 years and then go backpacking in their shoes, give them blisters somewhere. So then you know where the blisters are. You can come in here and you'll be able to help them, like a wider toe box or something. And so you just get a lot of information from doing the activity, and it's hard to just blanket say, take all this and you'll be perfect.
Right. So as a adventure racer, long distance paddler, the next question has to do with nutrition. Now, you can't be hungry, you can't be bonking, you can't have success if your body is malfunctioning because you're not the energy. So what's your secret sauce? Do you have, like, what approach do you take? Do you graze all day? Do you stop for meals? How do you approach that?
I like to think of it as like the calorie drip. So you have a few sort of graze. So if 2 or 3 times an hour you're eating a little bit of something, and so it's slowly hitting you with constant energy. And it's really the number one thing, no matter if you're going a couple miles or going a couple hundred or a couple thousand miles, is like limiting sugar. The highs and lows of sugar are so massive. It can be like something that like a gel or something can be good for like in conjunction with other things, but I just think it's such fleeting energy that I try to focus more on the simple carbs or even fats or things like that that'll have like a longer lifespan and you're eating less of them, and so it's just that constant energy flow rather than the highs and the lows. And then I think the other thing is just the like salt consumption and hydration too is a huge thing to keep in mind, because there's nothing worse than being thirsty and being a long ways away from the next water source, and then that thirst turns to like cramping or things like that that are physiological that really inhibit your adventure and enjoyment out there too. So I think a lot of the things are just having the tools, and especially when you start over planning or carrying a little bit extra nutrition, because it can really ruin a trip when you end it hungry and you're just kind of sad because you don't have enough food to eat out there.
So when I did my big 16-day kayak expedition, my treat was nutrageous candy bars, right?
Yep.
How about you? Do you have one?
Yeah.
You have one thing that you like all day, you're just waiting till you get that one thing?
Reese's Fast Break bars, I think, are fantastic. And I like to think of calories like do 80% like good calories that are gonna help you and power you through, and then do 20% that are psychological. Your nutrageous, your fast break. I love chocolate covered coffee beans or like some crackers and stuff or whatever it may be that's like, I am excited, this is a dopamine release just eating this. Like you want 20% of that, because you don't just want to eat like cold oatmeal or something all day. You need that thing that's going to really get you out of bed or turn your day around. And if you are having a rough morning, eat that, whatever that bar is in the morning. Like pick the time of the day where you need that boost, and that's what's going to turn it around.
Yeah. And it's kind of like getting a pat on the back when you get that, right? It's a very uplifting experience. So, any other general gear advice, like for the more along the lines of what you're doing? So you want to travel fast, you're quick, you're light. How big of a pack do you carry?
Usually 40-liter generic for an adventure. If it's like a shorter, faster thing, it would be even smaller, like 30 liters or even like a large running style pack. But I think 40 to 55 is kind of a good baseline, where if you're in the 50 to 60 range, it's good. You can't completely overpack, but it also inhibits if you're starting out or a backpacking trip from filling it, because you will fill it with everything that you will overfill it. Even
take
if
whatever
you don't.
You can,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Fill space.
Yeah. So I think in general, I also think trekking poles are pretty nice too. It's something that a lot of people don't think about, especially if you're going with a shelter that's non-freestanding. You can use your trekking poles to literally set up a tent. So it's a little bit of a hack there. Other gear things.
I guess on the gear topic, the other question was, how much do you sleep? And then when you sleep, what's your sleep system?
Yeah, it totally depends on the adventure. So like in the book on the calendar year Triple Crown, it was all about getting, 7 to 9 hours a night, because I'm doing 30 miles a day every day. So you want to get enough rest to be able to do that the next day. But in August, going after the 220 mile John Muir Trail and doing it in 3 days, I slept less than 30 minutes a night. So maybe a total of less than an hour. And so that sleep system is pretty much non-existent. It's flop down on the side of the trail with an alarm set and sleep for 15 minutes at a time.
Crazy.
But in general, it's usually, I have a double wall tent and a single wall tent, and it just depends. If it's more of a casual trip, I'll take the double wall tent just because it's a lot better with condensation. Double wall is basically mesh on the inside with the rain fly over the top, and so it separates kind of where the elements would hit from the inside layer. And so right now I have a Sea to Summit double wall tent that I like taking. It's a 2-person, so it's pretty spacious, get to have my gear. But if it's a fast and light thing, I like the one from Gossamer Gear, or there's a few other small shops that make single wall tents that you set up with the trekking pole and you stake out, and they're pretty cramped inside, but it is very light, and you get some condensation, but the name of the game is speed and speed and basically just being agile and quick, efficient setup and takedown. And I'd say most of the time, if it's a record attempt, it's not about, I'm not going to be setting up my tent every night. I might just use it as a ground sheet. And so I think it's just really comes down to the adventure. And that's a big thing that I try to preach is you want to pack for the adventure you're going on. Don't use my record-setting gear list for your 3-mile hike to a lake. Like, you will be miserable. I would be miserable if I was doing that. So it's really about just think about going into a trip, what you're trying to get out of it. I am big on bringing sweatpants and a book if I'm going to be enjoying a sunset on a casual backpacking trip. And I am not doing that if I'm going after a record. I guess across the board, I usually take a quilt. I just think it's really versatile, works pretty good. So like a 20-degree quilt, the one I have, it's kind of a flex model, so it zips up to the knees, so it's almost like a fully closed sleeping bag there, and then the top part you can wrap around more like a sleeping bag. But in the warm temperatures, when it's hot and humid, you can just use it as a fully unzipped blanket, and then the colder stuff you can even throw in like a down blanket or something else to add to it, I guess. But yeah, the sleeping system is hard because especially here you can have very cold temperatures and then very hot, so it's whatever you can do to have the least amount of gear that's the most versatile, I think, is the name of the game.
Well, and again, your trips go through a lot of different environments, right?
Yeah.
So you were talking about in one of your posts something about hiking in the desert. So if you're traveling through the desert, you're obviously going to be a much different kit than if you're up in the Sierra Nevada mountains or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially in the desert too, it's more complicated than people think because it might be daytime high of 90, but nighttime it's in the 30s or so. So it's really that planning, but also in the desert, you don't have to plan for as much rain or anything. So you can maybe leave the rain pants at home, whereas somewhere else it's Colorado, a freak storm can kind of get everything wet. So you want to keep your gear dry so that it keeps you warm in the cold nights and everything too. So yeah, I think that it is just all about the terrain, environment, season. What also a lot of people are cold sleepers or warm sleepers. So this is where it's when you're a beginner, it's like take what you think and then take some notes, or I like to take notes where you can look at them for the next adventure and kind of reassess, or say, I brought 3 pairs of pants, I only wore one, I could never see myself wearing those other 2 pairs, so I don't ever need to pack them again. So it's just kind of that continual improving. Like, I learned pretty quick I don't want a 55-pound external frame pack on an adventure, and I also learned that if I do take one, I'm going to load it heavy enough that it's going to break. So I need to have a pack that's the right size, or else I will overfill it every time. So
that's how I learned that I needed a new bag. I used my husband's Boy Scout backpacking backpack.
Wow.
And it bruised my shoulders because I overstuffed and overpacked it.
Because you pack it, and then there's so much extra room that you just are continually adding more stuff to it until it feels full.
There is another question.
Yeah.
Also, do you have one memory that sticks out the most from your travels?
2 memories. One getting charged by a moose and one getting charged by a grizzly.
So that would answer my other question is, have you had any encounters with wildlife?
Yeah. This is Rob, by the way. Welcome, Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, he looks like he just rode his bike.
The guy
here.
that you can't see is the reason that Jeff is with us. So if you feel like popping in here, Rob, we can introduce you.
Sure.
You're going to stand out in your attire right now.
Yeah. I think he biked here.
I'll come around and say hello.
Yeah, so I was 2016. This one's actually in the book, so you can buy the book anywhere books are sold, probably here.
Maybe
soon.
We'll start carrying it for show, Michael.
Yeah. Yep. So I was coming around the corner near Steamboat Springs, Colorado, hiking south on the Continental Divide Trail. I'm about 6,000 miles into the 8,000 miles of hiking I'm doing in 2016. And I see these moose antlers on the ground, and it's like, oh, these are cool. I'm going to pick them up and mail them back. But then as I get closer, they start moving. And so it's not a big deal. They're keeping to themselves. But one of them slowly gets up and like kind of stretches out a little bit, and then he just sprints at me, and I'm only 20 feet away, and I just dive in the bushes. And I remember before I'd started this trip, I'd done some research on what to do if a moose attacks, and they're very ornery, but they're not very smart, and they don't have great eyesight. So I just crawled through these bushes while it's like just moving its antlers through, and then I just run backwards and then just hide behind a tree, and I just see him looking around for me, just trying to smell. And then slowly he kind of gets bored and then just walks back to where he was sitting down and lays back down next to his friend there. And I backtracked on the trail and went all the way around, but I just laughed to myself for the next hour, just thinking how dumb it was. I was going to pick up some attached moose antlers. Yeah. And then the grizzly bear, it was on the Great Western Loop, so that was a 7,000-mile loop I did around California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, just to make a big old loop. And
Yeah.
I was going through the Bob Marshall Wilderness, and I just came around a corner, and there's this grizzly bear with its head just stuck in the bushes eating like huckleberries or something. And as I come up, I don't know, 50 feet, 60 feet from it, it pulls its head out, and that's when I see two cubs behind it. So it's a mama bear, and she looks at me, kind of snorts a little, and then sprints straight at me. And about 15 or 20 feet away, she finally stops and gets up on her hind legs and snorts a little bit and growls a little. And I'm holding my bear spray, like shaking, not really sure when to deploy it, because I never did any research on how far away it's actually supposed to be sprayed. Do your research. And then she put her hooves down, her cubs took off, and then she ran off into the bushes. But I was so just elevated and triggered that when I came around the corner, there were these hunters that had brought mules in, and they were setting up camp. And I just started talking to their mules, telling them about how I'd been charged by a grizzly, because I just had to get it off my chest. Tell someone, because you're very solitary on a lot of these.
Yeah, because you had been playing that over in your head.
Yeah.
Probably still are.
Yeah.
Do you hike with a bear bell? Obviously, you carry bear spray.
Yeah, I don't usually do a bear bell. I try to talk out loud to myself, and I like trying to do celebrity impressions or accents or stupid little things to kill the time, but I think are kind of funny. So I don't do the bear bell, but I think it's pretty important to, whether it's just say like, hey bear, once in a while or whatever, just to alert the world that you're coming around a corner, or to have someone else there that you're chatting with. And I would say most of the time on the trail when you're hiking, that's the only uniquely dangerous or interesting encounter I've had. Other than that, most animals have been afraid. It's when you're in camp, that's when the food storage is paramount, because they're looking for the food. They're not looking to eat a human usually, because the food on your back's a lot better to them than the food that your flesh.
Yeah. Good. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we're gonna bring in the guy responsible for all this.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, you
I'm going to introduce you all to Rob. Is it L. Rob Peters or Rob
Just call me
Peters?
Rob, that's fine,
Okay,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
thanks for making this happen.
My
first of all.
pleasure. Thanks for everything you did to help make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to have Jeff here and bring his story and source of inspiration to Grand Rapids and West Michigan.
Yeah. So we'll bring in another chair and.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Hope you did your hair and makeup. Yeah.
That's what I was doing back behind the camera.
Yeah.
You got rid of the bright orange because you were out biking.
Yeah.
Which is awesome to see in the
Thanks.
middle of, not really, we love winter. We'd
Rod
rather see
doesn't
the
drive.
summer.
I've been driving his car because he bikes everywhere.
Okay.
So
I try to. I
Yeah.
try to.
So how did you two meet? What's the connection? Where did you know?
yeah, you got this one.
Yeah, sure. This is kind of funny. Jeff probably doesn't even know all the backstory. I may have told him at one point. In May of 2021, I was going to Utah to support someone in a triathlon, and I knew I might get a day to play. So, I'm interested in sort of the FKT community and FKT movement. So I was looking around at FKTs in Zion, like, what's there, and I stumbled across this FKT for going through Zion, across Zion and back, and I think there's only one person who's documented it, right? Well, anyway,
It's competitive, yeah.
Yeah, one of the people is Jeff. It's like an 80-mile, pretty big undertaking, and nothing I probably could have undertaken at the time. But I remember kind of drooling over it, and I don't know. You can speak on the behalf of the person who had done it. That wasn't like a super fast time for you, right?
No, it was more to see if my body was ready to do a 7,000-mile adventure a month after that.
Right. So it's kind of like a tune-up hike for you, or a run.
Yeah.
So I saw it and remember thinking, like, I'm not super athletic like this guy, but I remember thinking, that seems like maybe an accessible FKT. I got really excited about it, so I did a little research on this guy and started following him on Instagram. It turns out you can't do that anymore because the trail has been destroyed from a landslide. So
this is my safest record because you can no longer do the trail.
Yes.
He says it's not that good of a time, but it's the fastest one and will be for a long time.
You own it, actually. Might as well claim it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
No one's going to take that down.
One of many for this guy. But I followed him on Instagram for a while. He's humorous and, does a lot of cool stuff. And it turned out, I guess, was it a year and a half later?
You moved to Bozeman?
I moved to Bozeman, Montana, which wasn't even in the cards at the time. But I was going on sabbatical for work, so doing some research at the university. And I think within the weeks leading up to it, I saw some Strava or something and saw that he lived in Bozeman. So I was like, wow, you live in Bozeman. I'm moving to Bozeman. He's like, oh, cool, we should connect. And then one day on a training run, I saw him in a parking lot. And I said, wait, are you Jeff Garmier? And he said, yes. And so we connected that way and got some cool hikes in. And
yeah, we've been friends ever since. We actually, if anyone followed, about a year ago, when Yellowstone completely flooded, we had done a trail run the week before and went out to this river, and it was like we were seriously thinking about swimming across this thing, and we didn't really realize how high the water levels were. So we've gotten into some hairy stuff together, and you're originally from out here, this area.
Yeah,
so,
Michigan, yeah.
So that's part of the long story of Grand Rapids and how it all comes back around.
Well, we preach community a lot. We've talked about it earlier in the live thing that we're doing here, and you're part of the Bill and Paul's community.
Definitely. This shirt I bought at Bill and Paul's. Most of the shirts I've been teaching for the last 2 or 3 years, I bought at Bill and Paul's.
Yeah.
Great selection upstairs.
Shameless promotion. Shameless promotion right there. So
he's a plant.
We are in the middle of our winter sale.
Yes.
Come on down.
Everything must go.
Crazy Eric sale. So So have you seen the movie?
No. I mean, you can't. I don't even know if you.
I would have let him watch it, but I wanted his instant reaction once we see it. So
I bought a ticket for Thursday night, so I'll be there.
And so tell them how to buy tickets ahead of time and where the movie is, Rob.
Sure. The showing's gonna be 6:30 p.m. Thursday night in the Waggy Ballroom at Aquinas College. The street address is 1700 Fulton Street East, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
freeoutside.com/film. Link there. Also, the trailer is there. I'm sure I can twist an arm and they might throw the trailer up on the Facebook for Bill and Paul.
We've thrown the trailer out a little bit. The
Yep.
premise is you're doing going for a speed hiking record on the Colorado Trail.
Yep. So
Yeah, we're not
490 miles, attempting to do it in about 9 days and break the current record. And it's called an unsupported one, so I carry everything I'm going to need for all 9 days in my pack. I can't get any assistance or anything, and I'm still trying to cover 50 miles a day. I am here in Grand Rapids, so I will be at the showing, and there will be a Q&A afterward as well. And so, I'm excited to show and share it, and I think it's cool. It's this just way to share adventure, passion, inspiration, and also the outdoors, because it's pretty cool. Right outside our door is always an adventure.
So thanks for tuning in today, you guys. Thank you, Jeff, so much for your time this afternoon.
thank you.
Our meet and greet turned out to be a little more virtual than anything, but I think this worked out pretty darn well. I've enjoyed learning a few things. Rob, thank you for making this happen. You'll see these guys there. I'll be there. Come on down to the Weggy Auditorium Thursday night.
And thank you for the questions.
Yes.
We really appreciate you guys tuning in.